Hello soulmate, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So in this video I'm going to be teaching us how to cut and draft a jumpsuit. So this was actually a requested video that I saw on one of my comments on a video I posted. So I'm going to be showing us the step-by-step process on how to go about it. So guys, stay tuned to the end of the video. So now let's get right into the business of the day. We're going to be drafting the bodies first. So now I've gone ahead to mark out the horizontal lines, which is the shoulder, the chest line, the bust point, and the half length. So I've gone ahead to mark out those lines. So we're going to be drafting the front part. So now I'm going to be placing half of the shoulder measurement here on the shoulder line and on the chest line. I'm going to rule a straight line across, just as you can see. So the neck width I am working with is 3 inches, and the neck depth is about 5.5 inches. So you're just going to be using the curvy part of your ruler. So the neckline is not that straight, do you understand? So that's why I'm using that. So I'm using 1.5 inches for shoulder slope. So I'm just going to be connecting it this way. So up next, you get the midpoint, then go in by half an inch. So you connect the point this way to get your armhole curve. On the waistline, you're going to be placing and on the bust point line, half of your bust span. So you rule a straight line across. So below the bust point, you leave about 1 inch. Do you understand? So then your dart intake on both sides is 0.5 inches. So the dart, it depends on you. So if you are working with a stretchy fabric, you don't need to take a dart. Do you understand? If you are working with a stretchy fabric, you don't need to take a dart. So now I'm just going to be placing the waist measurement plus the dart intake on the waistline. Then the bust measurements divided by 4. That's quarter of your bust. So just go ahead and connect the point. Now for the back piece pattern, so I've gone ahead to mark the horizontal line, the shoulder line, the chest line, and the waistline, just as you can see. So now at the center back of the waistline, like this, I'm going to go in by 0.75. So that this is so that our zip can relax well at the back. So I'm just going to connect this point this way, just as you can see. So I'm going to be placing half of our shoulder measurement on the shoulder line and on the chest line. We rule a straight line across, just as you can see. So I'm using 1 inch for shoulder slope, 3 inches for neck width, and 1.5 inches for the neck depth. So I'm just going to go ahead and connect all the points together. We are going to be placing our nipple to nipple measurements. I'm placing it after that 0.75. Then later I'll add the 0.75 back. So whatever I have, I'm going to mark it on the chest line. This is so that the points can align. Do you understand? So that's the reason for doing that. So the dart intake is 0.5 on both sides. So I'm just going to be connecting it to the chest line. Like I said, if you are working with a stretchy fabric, you don't need to take a dart. So I'm going to get the midpoint of the armhole, then go in by half an inch. Then just go ahead and connect the points together so we can get our armhole, just as you can see. Next up, you are going to be placing quarter of your bust measurement on the chest line and quarter of your waist measurement plus the dart intake. So just go ahead and connect the points, just as you can see. So make sure you label your patterns. So this is for the back and this is for the front, just as you can see. On the waistline at the center back, on the waistline, I'm just going to go up by half an inch, then connect it to the side, just as you can see, connect it to the side this way. I'm done drafting the upper part. Let's move to the lower part, which is the pants, the trouser. So before marking the waistline, I left about 2 inches or 2.5 inches. So on the center side line, this line here, I had about 2.5 inches. So just leaving that line. So it'll just be like a starting line. Do you understand? So now I'm going to be placing the length of the trouser. So on the length of the jumpsuit. So you take away your half length from it. So you take away your half length. So in this case, I'm using 54 inches. It's just the 54 is just an assumption. It's not my measurement. So I'm just using that 54 inches as the length. Do you understand? I'm just doing that so that you can see the entire drafting of the trouser length. That's why I'm doing that. So I've gone ahead to roll a straight line, just as you can. Next up, you are going to be placing your shoulder to your waist to your nail measurements. Whatever you have from your waist to nail, you place it. Then you roll a straight line like this. So I'm going to label this as the nail length. So now we are going to be placing the hip measurement, your hip level, I mean. So whatever you have for your hip level, you place it. So I'm going to roll a straight line across, just as you can see. So next up is the crotch depth. Now to get your crotch depth, all you have to say is your hip measurement divided by 4 plus 3 inches or 4 inches. Do you understand? So this is because you're adding those inches to it for it to have room, so that the place will be comfortable for you, like you'll be able to walk conveniently, because it's a jumpsuit. So I'm just rolling a straight line across, just as you can see. Then I'm going to label it your crotch line, I mean. So you are going to be placing your hip measurement divided by 4. Your hip measurement divided by 4, you place it on the waistline, you place it on the hip line, then you also place it on the crotch line. Then you go ahead and roll a straight line across. So you roll a straight line across, just as you can see. Work with the crotch extension. So now I just roll a slanted line, or you get an angle 90, preferably use an angle 90. So the crotch extension for the front is your hip measurement divided by 20. So whatever you have, you mark it there. So now I'm just going to be on that line. I marked about 1 inch or 1.25. I marked it there just to get my curve, so that the curve will not be too deep. Do you understand? So this is what it looks like when I connected it. So now that point I placed my hand, that point and this point, you are going to get the midpoint. So whatever you have, you divide it into 2. Then you just get your midpoint, then roll a straight, get your midpoint, mark it all the way down, then you roll a straight line. So that line we'll call it the crease line. So next up, you want to determine the length, how wide you want the trouser to be at the bottom. So whatever you have at that point on the crotch line, you can mark it all the way on the trouser length. Then when you mark it all, you can just take 1 inch from both sides to give it a little bit of fitting. Then you join it to the side of the crotch line. You join it on both sides, you connect the point. But in this case, I just want to do a little bit of alteration. Yes, I want to do a little bit of alteration. So I'm going to measure what I have here, like this. Whatever I have, I'm going to be removing 2 inches from it. So when I remove 2 inches from it, I'll divide it by 2. So when I divide it by 2, whatever I have is what I'm going to be placing on the nail line. I'll be placing whatever answer I get on the nail line. So that means I'm sharing it on both sides. So I've gone ahead to share it. You can see I'm sharing it on both sides. You share it on the trouser length as well. It's just like whatever I had on the crotch line, I removed 1 inch on both sides. Do you understand? So just go ahead and connect it this way. So you do that for the other side as well. So I'm just going to be using the curvy part of my ruler up to the nail length this way. So then connect it like this, just as you can see. Now let's move to the waistline. So like I said, if you want to add that, you might add that. If you don't want to, you might not add that. If you are working with a stretchy fabric, you don't need to add that. So I'm placing the waist measurement plus the dart I am working with for the upper bodies. So now I'm just going to be connecting it to the hip line this way, as you can see. Connect it to the hip line this way. Next up, I'm going to be placing half of the bust span on the waistline like this. Then I'll place it this way, then roll a straight line across, just to mark our dart. So the length I'm using for it is about 5 inches. So that intake on both sides is half an inch. So I'm just going to go ahead and connect it this way, just as you can see. Connect it this way. So now we have our dart. So I'm just going to be marking out the pocket. So on the waistline, I went inward by the side by 1.5 inch, then I marked down 5 inches. So I'm just going to be connecting it this way. So this is going to serve as the pocket opening. Do you understand? So now I'm going to determine the length of the pocket at the bottom. So I think I used about 5 inches or 5.5 inches. So I'm just going to connect it from that dart leg this way. Connecting it from that dart leg. So it's not going to be straight. I'm just going to make it a little bit curvy. So just connect it to the hip line, just as you can see. You can see what I'm doing. So next up, you just go ahead and label your patterns. You can see I label the pocket, the front pattern, and the crease line. So everything is well labeled. So now we're going to go ahead and draft out the back pattern for the jumpsuit. We're going to draft the back pattern. This is for the back. I already marked out the horizontal lines, which is the waistline, the hip line, the crotch line, the knee length, and the trouser length, the same way I did for the front. But at the top I left about 2 inches because of the extension of the back pattern. So like I said, so the hip line I'm working with is 9 inches, same with the front. Whatever you have, you mark it. So also the knee length, so the trouser length, the length as well, you take away your half length to get the length of the bottom part, just as you can see. So you are going to be placing your hip measurement divided by 4. You place it on the waistline, on the hip line, and on the crotch line this way. So you go ahead and roll a straight line, just like the way I did for the front. You go ahead and roll a straight line, just like this. So you extend the crotch line outward a bit. So now, for the crotch extension for the back, your hip measurement divided by 10. So you mark it. So now we're going to be using angle 90. So this point, you place it at that point. Then you get your angle 90. So you roll the line like this. So I marked about 1.25 inch for the extension. So this is because so that I'll be able to get a curve, so that the curve will not be too deep. So I'm just going to be, I already traced it with a free hand. I'm just going to be using the ruler to make it visible. Do you understand? So that the curve can look okay, just as you can see. So this is it. So now I'm going to go to the waistline on the center back. So I came in by 2 inches or 2.5 inches. So I'm connecting it to the hip line. Can you see my hand? So you extend the line above the waistline, just as you can see. So you can see what I've done. So you measure what you have on your crotch line. You measure it, then you divide it by 2. So we want to get the midpoint of our trouser of this back pattern. You get the midpoint. So when you do that, you just go ahead and roll a straight line across to connect the points together, just as you can see. And I'm going to label it star line. We'll call it the crease line. So that's what I've done. I'm going to move to the waistline of this front pattern. So now I'm just extending it by 1.5 inches above the waistline. So there's an extension. I use 1.5 inches. You can use 1 inch, depends on what you want. So now we're going to be placing our waistline from that point that I marked 1.5 inches on the waistline. So whatever you have, your waistline plus the dart intake, you mark it. Make sure that your tape rule is slanted to adjust, to place it on that waistline that we have. You can see what I'm doing. Just roll a straight line across this way. You can see what we have. So next up, you connect it to the hip line. You connect it to the hip line this way. Connect it to the hip line this way. So we're going to be placing the dart for the back. So at the center back, you mark your bust span or your nipple to nipple measurement, half of it. Then you roll a slanted line. Make sure that one of the lines on that ruler is resting on that slanted line. So I'm extending the back dart length by 5.5 inches, and the intake on both sides is 0.5 inches on both sides. So you just connect the points together, just as you can see. So that's the dart for the back. So I'm going to be bringing out the front piece. So I'm going to measure what I have on the nail end of the front piece, like this. So whatever I have there, I'm going to be adding 1 inch to it. So that 1 inch I added to it, then I'll divide it by 2. Do you get? I'll divide it by 2. So I'm going to be placing it on the nail line for the back. So that's what I did. So whatever I have, I'm just going to mark it at the bottom so that everything can align. So I'm just going to connect the points. But in the case where whatever you did at the front, you don't want it to be like this, you just measure what you have on your crotch line and measure it all from your crotch line to the side of the crotch extension, then connect it all the way down. Like if you don't want to do this process, just like the way I explained on the front pattern, do you understand? So I'm just going to connect the points like this. We're done drafting the back pattern, so I'm just going to go ahead and start cutting. Until I'm cutting out the back, so you do exactly the same thing. So you carefully cut out your pattern, just as you see me do. So this is for the back piece. So we're also going to cut out the front piece as well. So carefully look at what I am doing for the front piece. So you cut it out this way, just as you can see. So we are going to be tracing the pockets. So I have 2 pieces of this pattern paper. So the pocket is going to be 2 pieces. So you use your tracing wheel to trace out the pockets. You carefully trace it out. So I'm just going to go ahead and trace it out this way. Just carefully do the process. You don't have to rush it. So you just trace it out this way. Just make sure that you are tracing out 2 pieces. So by the time I was done tracing it out, so I'm just going to be following the traced out lines. So that's how I'm just cutting it. So just carefully cut it. You know that it's about 2 pieces that you have there. So I'm going to be opening it up like this, because remember there's an opening I have to cut off from the front pattern. So I'm cutting it off on one side of the pocket. So that is this part I just cut off on the pocket. So this is what the pocket will be. So you place the first piece, then the second piece, just like this. So by the time you dip your hand, this is what it's going to look like for the pocket. You make sure that you add your seam allowances. So whatever seam allowances you want to add on the side depends on you. So you make sure you add your seam allowances for hemming at the bottom. Add your seam allowances on the side. But on the crotch, you can add 0.5 inches. The waistline 0.5 inches. So now you also add your seam allowances around the pocket. Do you understand? You add your seam allowances. So whatever seam allowances you add on the side of the trouser, you also had it by the side of the pocket as well, so that it can align. Do you understand? So that's that for the front piece. So for the back piece, I'm going to also explain the same allowance for the back. So for the back piece now, you make sure that you had your seam allowance, your sewing allowance, for sewing at the sides, at the hem parts, and the waistline. So for the center back this way, make sure you had your zipper allowance. Make sure you had your zipper allowance for the center back like this. Make sure you had your zipper allowance. So now we are done, or we are done with the bottom part. So let's go ahead and cut the upper parts and also explain the seam allowances as well. So now I'm going to be cutting out the upper part. So this is me cutting off the back. So now go ahead and cut the front. Remember that you are going to be cutting the front on fold. While the rest you'll be cutting out 2 pieces. And the neckline you add 0.5 inches, the shoulder 0.5 inches, the armhole 0.5 inches. So by the side, you determine the seam allowance, maybe 1 inch, maybe 0.5 inches, maybe 1.5 inches on both sides, depends on you. So you are cutting it on fold. So at the waistline too, you have 0.5 inch. So for the back, the shoulder, the arm was 0.5 inch. So you also don't forget to add your zipper allowance for the center back. So now this is me. I have placed the front piece of the pattern together. You can see that's the back, and you can see the dark lines are aligning. So that's the back, and this is the front of the jumpsuit. So guys, we've come to the end of this tutorial. Please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, comment, like and share. Thank you. So I'm going to be seeing you in my next video. So this is how to cut the jumpsuit. So now this is a full view of the jumpsuit. Thank you guys for watching.